My vehicle drives over a dual-arrayed Copperhead IED, instantly decapitated the lieutenant. When I got medevaced, I flatlined on the bird. So my unit did a funeral for me.
All right, here we go. My man Sam.
My man.
Welcome to the podcast, brother. Thank you so
bro.
much. I appreciate you
Thank
coming here, my man. For people that don't know you, what's your name? Where you from? Where were you born?
Sam, right? Sam Angert. Born and raised Brooklyn, New York. Oh boy, man, I've been everywhere, right?
Where was your childhood? You grew up in Brooklyn?
I spent my childhood years in South Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent my childhood years in South Brooklyn.
How was Brooklyn growing up?
Now that I look back at it, different.
Different, right?
Right? In the 90s.
Yeah.
Different.
Oh, you were in Brooklyn in the 90s?
In the 90s, man.
Okay.
Growing up as a kid in the early 90s, moving into the 2000s era, and then a couple of years thereafter. So all the way up until I finished middle school, so 8th grade. But that, in the 90s, at that time, 11 to 13 is when you can have the most influence, right? And I was there during 9/11 too.
Oh, wow. You were there for 9/11.
So 9/11, I mean, my whole family.
How old were you when that happened?
11.
11 years old.
11 years
9/11.
old, bro. Yeah, so big influence,
Yeah.
right? As it had for many people. It was a big, big influence, man. It was
Let's stay with the 9/11 part. I got one question. Where were you when that happened? You were in
class.
school?
Yeah, I was in math
so was
class,
I.
man. I was in math class, and I come from a traditional Ukrainian family who immigrated to the United States in 1979. So I'm a first-generation American-born. And my folks, they come from a place where you can't bullshit your way out of things, right? So during 9/11, that day, Tuesday morning, September 11, 2001, I remember it like it was yesterday, but that morning, I was in math class, and my mom, dude, unless I was on my deathbed, would not pull me out of school, dude, right? There's no reason why you needed to get out of school, right? There's no reason. And I heard my name come over the loudspeaker, you know, the standard prompt of, so-and-so, please come to the main office with all your belongings. Bro, I was so happy, dude. I was so happy.
But did you know what was going on? Or
yeah,
you knew?
So I think right before that break of coming from lunch to back to class, everybody was downstairs, and this was like the Nokia era when everybody had the Nokia phones and Snake, right? The game Snake was a real popular thing, right? So everybody was downstairs, even the Motorola flip phones that had the batteries in the front, right? So orange lettering, no real screens. But I think there was a lot of chatter downstairs in the cafeteria about terrorists fucking blew up the World Trade Center, right? And people are scrambling around because a lot of the kids I knew had family that worked in the city on the west side where the towers were.
Yep.
So that was a big thing.
That was devastating. For anyone that family in any of those buildings, that was...
Yeah. I mean, in its entirety, it was a tragic event. But for an 11-year-old fucking schmuck that didn't want to be in class, it was a fucking fantastic day for me, right? I just wanted to go home. I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I only started to realize how impactful that day was when I got home, and they kept replaying that plane crashing into whatever news channel it was, ABC, NBC.
Well, every channel possible had that on
and
replay.
again, dude, this is early 2000s, and we've still got box TVs on the ground. Right, big brown frame of an old box TV.
I remember those.
Color, of course, right? But they just kept replaying that first plane hit the tower, and I know that we're gonna get into this here in a little bit, but this kind of structured who I am today, right?
Yeah.
9/11 was a big impact of who I am, sitting where I am now, right? Fucking looking like I just jumped out of a camo suit, you know what I mean? On a fucking raid.
I love it though, bro. I love the Army.
You know, those moments, they didn't shape who I was, because again, I didn't understand, right? Like it was all off the views of somebody else, you know? And so when I'm standing in the living room and I'm seeing my mom hold my hand and crying and just watching it, everybody standing in the living room watching, I'm like, I look up and she said, yeah, I said, Mom, what happened? And she said, well, some really bad people did some really bad things in Manhattan. and we were on the 6th floor apartment, and I'd walk over to the window, and there was this much fear instilled in people that she would say, don't stand next to the windows.
Wow.
On the 6th floor.
Yeah.
Right? The towers were 90 plus floors high, right? But yeah, people didn't want to stand next to their windows. So my parents, my grandparents were like, get away from the windows. Don't stand there.
Yeah, they had no idea what's next.
What are you
don't
talking
know,
about?
right?
You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a big impact. And it led a lot to shaping my mindset about the whole concept of patriotism. Being an American patriot, fucking living the lifestyle that I've wanted to live.
Yeah.
It's a dream, dude. You know, I'm living a dream.
So after that, you grew up in Brooklyn. Where do you go next?
My stepdad took us to Boston, right? So here I am, freshman year of high school, Brooklyn kid with a Yankees fitted on in the mean streets of Boston, dude. And I'm trying to make I'm trying to make friendly with everybody I meet.
Why Boston? Your father chose Boston?
He had an opportunity in business.
Okay.
So they gave him a book, like an encyclopedia thickness level. And it was this thick, and they're like, here are your options. Here's the locations. And apparently after 9/11, they didn't want to be in the tri-state area. New Jersey, Connecticut were the options, right? New York, New Jersey, Connecticut was still the tri-state at the time. It still is
That's for his
today.
career, right? Where he could go work?
Yeah. He wanted to move us out of New York City.
Got you.
Apparently, and I wrote about this a lot throughout my career, and I've spoken about it a lot. But neighbors became enemies.
Yeah.
After 9/11.
It was a definitely intense situation.
Law enforcement who was idolized in New York, the NYPD, for me especially, right? Huge impact on me as a kid, became the neighborhood terrorists, right? People didn't like them. And so a lot changed, bro. A lot changed. So we went to Boston. I spent my years in high school out there, fucking getting into fights, doing dumb shit, being a teenager, partying.
Yep.
I was always a good student. I had a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. So I was never much of an example in my younger years, but I always was an example because everything I did, he wanted to fucking do, right? We went from one place where we moved because my parents needed to familiarize themselves with Boston.
Was it a lot different than New York?
Oh my God, bro. It was fucking hell.
Yeah. So you like New York better, obviously.
It's the suburbs, man.
Oh, you
You
were in the
take a
suburbs.
city kid into the suburbs and you're like, what the
Yeah,
fuck
you're
is
lost.
this, bro? And fucking,
definitely.
they party out with bonfires. I didn't know what a fucking bonfire was, right? They go to the woods to party.
Yeah.
Like, dude, these
There's
guys are
no woods in New
fucking
York.
people are weird, bro.
Yeah.
To me, wearing Vans and all sorts of country shit.
My partner likes Vans.
Bro, and I'm a Vans guy now, right? Now I know all about it now. But me, I was a Nike, and New York was, even then it was hip, it was in style. You needed to keep up with the fads. You needed to be in the right clothing. You needed to be sharp. You grow up fast in the city.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? The city life is fast. It's fast paced for anybody who comes from any part of the 5 boroughs. Will tell you it's a fast paced lifestyle, and you either keep up or you sink.
Yeah, man.
And even as a kid, like I said, 11 to 13 was that time where it was like the most influence, right? So just about to finish middle school, but then I went into Boston in my freshman year, and I'm like, fuck it, got to hold it down, right? So all I did was fight, dude. I was getting into fights. They didn't like that I was wearing a Yankees hat. And actually, it's funny that we're talking about it.
That was big back then too. The hats, you
Bro,
could jump for that.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so 2003 to 2006, as a Yankees fan, was the biggest rivalries in professional sports history. It was the Red Sox-Yankees back-to-back years in the World Series. It was the Boston Bruins-New York Rangers standoffs when they had that. And then they also had the Patriots and the New York Giants.
Yeah.
When it was Tom Brady and Eli Manning.
Oh my
at
God.
that time. So it was an incredibly difficult time for me, bro,
Yes.
because I was still walking into high school with a Yankees hat, and it was like, what's up, bro? You know what I mean? What's up? And I don't want to pronounce the R's because they don't pronounce their R's, you know what I mean? But
speaking of that, Eli Manning, do you remember the game, Patriots finals, when Manning threw that crazy fucking Hail Mary?
the overhead catch?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you where I was then, and
Wow.
we're probably going to get into that too.
Yeah.
But I was in basic training.
Okay, for Army.
for the U.S. Army.
Okay. We got to go back to that, but yes.
Yeah. We're going to go back to that. I was in basic training for the U.S. Army that day, that evening. And our drill instructors were very, very nice that night and let us watch that on a small
little box.
10-inch monitor that was like on the ceiling. And we were all gay boys laying on each other's fucking lap, just fucking watching the game.
Yeah.
And I was 18 years old, dude. So it was a long time ago. This is fucking almost 20 years ago, right? So
you were in the training when that game happened, and you were obviously a New York fan. Of course you were.
Yeah. I had a couple of East Coast guys, right? But that was another thing. That was another influence which shaped me. Was as a city boy, even coming from Boston, as a city boy, you never see New York kids join in the military, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rare. The most they'll do is law enforcement. And that's law enforcement or fire department in New York. That's the most influential that they'll become in their neighborhood, right? A regular guy from the streets goes to join the NYPD after running from the cops because he's been doing graffiti and all sorts of dumb shit his whole life. Now he's a fucking role model to the guys he grew up with. Dude, we honor you, you know? But then you get a guy like me I had a different mindset, bro. And I think my folks taking us into Massachusetts, into the New England area, into the rural side of the country, and I say country, but it's still a city, right? And it's got its outskirts.
Boston's still a city.
Yeah, it still has its outskirts, but bringing a guy like me from South Brooklyn to the outskirts of Boston, I think really influenced me to join the service.
So you were in high school after high school, I assume you joined the service?
So I finished high school June of 07. And I started a local community college in that area. And there was I was filling out, so I got accepted to the community college. I was barely keeping up with a grade point average. It was minimal. There was a part in I was filling out for my second semester. There was a part in the application. There's a checkbox for a selective service in the United States. And to my understanding, it's selective service is what? It's a registry, a pool, right, of names for a registry of functionally reservists who will basically get drafted if there's a war in the country, right? I was like, fuck yeah, why not? And all it said was, if you sign this box, we'll send you an envelope which will have standard information, right, the selective service form, and you have a higher chance of receiving more money for financial aid. So I said, fuck it, I don't want my parents to pay for college, you know what I mean? They've done so much. Let me do that.
Yeah.
And that's where life changed, man. Is 2 weeks later, I get this neon orange envelope, and they make it so bright you cannot miss it, dude, right? It's got no lettering, no nothing, no print on it, and it just came in the mail one day. I go to the mailbox after the school bus drops me off. I pick it up. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Fucking walk in. I was like, Ma, mail, right? Fucking drop it on the table. She opens it up. Hey, come fill this out. This is your selective service form from, mind you, I'm now 18, right? So
how does she feel about that?
Nobody knew the difference, bro.
Okay.
You know, the country was in a time of war.
Yeah.
We had just broken the barriers of Iraq, right? I think Bush was still in office at the time, Bush Jr.
Yeah.
Afghanistan was already going on.
Yeah.
Right? And U.S. and allied forces were already boots on ground in Iraq and Afghanistan. So nobody really thought anything of it, especially coming from me, because I was a fucking party animal, dude. I didn't give a shit, right? I slept until noon. If I had to go to school, I'd go to school and just bare minimum shit, right? And I was like, I had no drive and no ambition and no vision, you know?
Got you.
So yeah, I just came upstairs and I'm filling it out. It's like basic shit. Name, social security number, address, sex.
There was no non-binary back then.
Bro. Fucking God. Non-binary, bro.
There was only two boxes.
Bro,
you can go one or the other. There's no middle.
Oh my goodness, dude. If that is it doesn't mean that people didn't have their preference then, right? But out in public is fucking you would have gotten destroyed, bro.
Yeah.
You fucking
yeah.
So I'm filling it out and I got to midway. I forget what it was. I think it was like a summary section. Just a small box, like put a small insert of a paragraph and describe like why or whatever it was. I completely forget, but I don't want to say I'm making it up, but I just to the best of my knowledge. And I'm filling it out, and I like stop midway, and I look at my mom, and I was like, "Hey, I don't want to do this." I was like, "I don't think this is a good idea." Why? You're gonna get more money for financial aid? I said, "Yeah, I just don't think this is a good idea. Honestly, I think I should just join the Marine Corps."
Yeah.
Right?
That's a little
fucking traditional fucking mother who immigrated to the United States at 9 years old from Ukraine, from Russia, right? Because it was during that time, 79, it was the fall of the USSR, right? So
that is the last thing she wanted to hear.
Bro, she's like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know. I think you should think about this. Talk to your father. My stepdad is my dad. He raised me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, talk to your father. It's like, all right, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? I think it's a good idea, Ma. Honestly. Have you thought about this? I'm like, I think it's a good idea, you know? And I'm jumping the gun. Now I'm in my headspace where I'm like, dude, I think I'm going to make a decision right now. And I'm going to pull the trigger, because if I wait, I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to go back to doing dumb shit on the street, right? And just being a street kid.
Yeah.
So I pulled the trigger. I went the next day, went straight to the recruiter's office. I already had my driver's license. I drove out there.
That's all you need, I guess? Just
Dude spoiled me, right? I met up with the recruiter. Homie spoiled me. Spent the whole day with him. Took me to the mall. We went to the bowling alley. Got some ice cream.
The recruiter?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like a fucking date, dude, right? Took me out, bro. Today, I'd have made a joke about it, right? But, yeah, man, he treated me well. He didn't smother me with shit and tell me things that I was supposed to or didn't know, or he didn't tell me anything in the regard of service, right? Like, he just wanted to know, because his job is recruiting, right? He wants to know who the fuck I am.
Yeah, of course.
And what my interests are. And he just wants to know.
What's going on? Why are you here?
Yeah, and mind you, this is 2007 going into 2008.
How long after that did you
I had 2 weeks at home before I cut out.
They give you 2 weeks
to I had
get
2 weeks
married.
at home, and he came to pick me up one of those days in between those 2 weeks, and I went and did all my paperwork, medical, all that. They took me to the Boston MEPS, which is like the facility where you're in process, and they do all your physical, all your medical. You go and swear under oath over there. You sign all your documentation, your contracts, finalize everything, and then they give you a date and you fucking ship out.
So the physical, it's not like you got to do training to prove yourself. It's just kind of like a blood
the physical
work, make sure you're healthy overall.
Yeah, so the medical process back then, I don't know how it's changed now, right? Going back to like the preference shit that we have going on in the last couple of years, like all the DEI and all that stuff,
garbage.
right? So
garbage.
In 07, 08, and I'm sure guys can attest to this, there wasn't a physical. Of course, it'd be good if you were physically fit, right? But going in as a standard soldier into the U.S. Army, the physical stuff was, we want to make sure you're not jacked up.
Yeah.
You don't have back issues, brain issues, psychological issues. Because if we let you in and then you become a problem, you're our responsibility.
Absolutely.
Right? So they were basically just clearing people to make sure you were okay. And I was good to go. You know, I was pretty level-headed and came from a good family, two parent household.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me. Yeah.
And how long was the training before you actually deployed?
So I was training basically every day. And the story is, when he sat me down in the office, he asked me, he opened his desk, and it's like this cheapy, janky desk that they had, right? And he's just like, slides out this metal drawer and pulls out a box of Scrabble letters. And he takes off the wooden lid, like the Domino's lid, right?
Yeah.
So he like dumps them on the table. And he's like, give me 3 words out of all these letters right here that you think would suffice as far as your commitment into the service and why you want to go. And I gave him all sorts of shit. I gave him courage. I gave him honor. And these are like typical words that I would hear, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then I gave him loyalty. And then I think I gave him country, right? That was one of them.
Yeah.
The love for country. And being in that office, I had so much influence on me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the best word that I could have chose. And he had a picture. There's a standard 4x6 photograph over his shoulder on the wall, pinned to the wall. And I kept looking at it. And he's like, are you looking at that? And I said, yeah. And I said, I want to do that. What do you want to do, Sam? And I said, I want to do that. And it's him and 5 of his guys standing in front of a Black Hawk helicopter on a white sandy beach
That's
with
sick.
blue waters behind them.
That's sick.
They're all in T-shirts. They're all holding rifles in their hands. And I said, I want to do that.
That's a kid's
And
dream.
Oh, so I said, dude, I want to fucking do that. And he said, oh, well, I was airborne and, you know, all this cool fancy shit. And I said, cool, I want to do that.
That's what you want to do.
He was like, oh, I was an infantry guy and I was on the front line. And I said, great, bro.
That's what I want to do.
Sign me up.
How long was the training? Like
We were training every day.
For how long?
Trainings for every day, man, from February of 08 till February of 09 until I touched down in South Baghdad.
So you
training
had a
was
year,
a nonstop.
You had a
thing.
year of training here in America before
as,
you
as
went.
an 18-year-old kid, I had one full. I would say 1 full year.
One
good.
full
like
year?
10 months to a year.
How was the training? Was it intense?
For a guy coming from nowhere to go to basic training, yeah, it was intense.
It was intense.
It was intense because I wasn't mentally prepared. Right, I didn't know what to expect.
But the physical part, you had it.
Physical was fine.
Yeah.
And then even so, because you're doing so much physical there, you're only getting stronger, right? So it was better for me.
And when was the first day of deployment?
I landed overseas. So we left Fort Hood, Texas. That's where I was stationed with the 1st Cavalry Division, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 17 Cav. Shout out to 17 if anybody knows about 17 Cav. The original Gary Owen. So there's actually what's his name? Mel Gibson, right? Or is that his name?
The director?
Yeah.
Actor Mel Gibson?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think he, is it Mel Gibson? Yeah, he makes a pretty crazy movie about my unit. And they all got massacred or some crazy shit. But it was a very, very historic unit. So I was privileged to be there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the training was insane. And we left Fort Hood, Texas early February. We flew out from Texas to the most northern part of Maine on a commercial airliner. Then from Maine, we took a 16-hour flight to Frankfurt, Germany. We were in Frankfurt in this small little airport for like 26 hours of a holdover. Then we all loaded up on a C-130 jumbo.
That's a big plane.
Big boy.
Yeah.
Cargo, right?
That's a sick plane.
It was,
yeah, that's
dude,
sick.
for me, this was
It's a dream, dude. Yeah.
And I was also extremely nervous and super scared, dude. I was extremely intimidated.
Yeah.
All of it. Like
Yeah.
I knew I had an entire brigade of men with me, but I was just like, what the fuck did I sign up for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is this, dude?
Did you have it in your head like I'm going there and I might die?
It
I
didn't
might kill somebody?
settle in until I got there.
Yeah.
Right? So from Frankfurt, we went straight to Kuwait. And when we got to Kuwait, the airport there was Ali Al Salim, right? The most beautiful airport I've ever been to. So shout out to the boys in Ali Al Salim right now because that place is amazing. So we were there, and the local outpost there, Camp Buring, which is another multi-billion-dollar facility. I don't know if it's still there, but they were treating us like kings.
Royalty,
It was
yeah.
great. It was great. We had plenty of time to sleep. We had plenty of time to eat. And then the day came where they were like, all right, boys.
How long were you there for before you?
We were at Buring. We were in Kuwait for like 20 days. And what we were waiting for before we crossed into the Iraqi borders was the unit that was already there
Yep.
that we were coming to relieve for them to pack up, get their shit ready, and
switch
make the
over.
proper transition between our leadership and theirs, because we had our high up commanders going out there before we came out there, the grunts, right, the little guys. And they would make that transition and they'd go out there and they'd talk to the higher ups and everything else, and then they'd come back. They'd brief all the platoon sergeants and all the lieutenants and everybody else, and it was just a channel of information, right? So we were waiting for that old unit to leave, and and then one day they were like, it was like 4 a.m, and I'd gotten used to fucking sleeping all day because we were just sleeping on cots, like old Vietnam.
You guys were still training, I assume, right? Not really.
It was minimal, but it was preparation, right? Because we were already in that area.
Yeah.
We were already there. We were in the hot zone now, right? But we were still doing some room clearing, some house clearing, some simulations where you're doing opposition training, and again, it was mostly clearing buildings and all that shit.
Well,
We
that
weren't
was
doing.
pretty much what it was over there, right?
That's
It was-
when I was there,
Yeah.
right? Just at the time, it was the training. Even so, the training was the pretend of the going after the high value target and how you turn a corner and what you're expecting of the men behind you. And so it was pretty much that. And I was never a special forces guy or a Navy SEAL or I wasn't any sort of special operations command guy. I was a regular U.S. Army guy on the front line. I was a regular infantry soldier.
That was your role?
That was me, man. That's what I did, right? I was just a regular infantry guy with a conventional Army unit that did the fucking thing, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. You had all sorts of specialty units out there.
Yeah.
We didn't play that role, right? I wasn't some high up, gung-ho, commit my life to special forces type of... I was a regular dude, bro.
Yeah.
I was a regular Joe. I would say the missions that we did were pretty cool. So yeah, 4 a.m, one morning, somebody comes up and they're like, get up, pack up, let's go. And
Your heart must have been.
Oh, I was fucking shocked, dude.
Yeah,
and
it's time.
It's time.
It's real.
Yeah. We walk out onto the airfield in Ali Salim, and there's fucking like 4 Chinook helicopters lined up with their ramps down and the red lights from the inside. And they're loading up the unit 1 Chinook at a time. And we're stacking the duffel bags in the center aisle of the Chinook, and we're all taking the seats on the left and the right side. Dude, I'm fucking 18 years old, bro.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? I'm 18,
That's
dog,
crazy
and I'm loading
for an
up in
18-year-old.
full battle rattle in a full combat uniform as an 18-year-old frontline grunt in Kuwait about to cross into the Iraqi borders.
I'm going to pause you there for 1 second. So do you think, okay, 18-year-old kid, now that you look back at it, do you think they should maybe raise the age to maybe just 21 at least? Just looking back at it, how you were, you were 18 years old. You're a child. And you're going to a plane to go fight into the war at 18. Do you think you were prepared at 18? Or do you think, maybe the 21 will be a better age limit?
Believe it or not, I would say the younger the better.
Really?
Yeah. All right. It's not like buying a pack of cigarettes or a bottle of alcohol from the store, right? Where we've got to enforce that law. I think 18 is a perfect age.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Now at 36, as a dad, as a former combat vet, and a lot of other things, right? I think 18 is the perfect age because they need to fucking mold you, dude, right? You're going to come in there a little older, you're stuck in your fucking ways. And being stuck in your ways is going to get people killed.
I get it. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they need to fucking mold you. And that's what they were doing. As many letters as I wrote home, crying, sobbing, sitting in a locker, I miss my mommy, shit like that. And I've got a stack of them at home. I've got a shoebox full of envelopes that my parents and I were exchanging when I was in basic training. I was miserable, dude. But they need to mold you, bro. Okay. And I think it's important that that continues. They, if you get these young cats, 18, 19, 20 years old, that want to go out there and fight, let them go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So back to the plane. You're in there.
Yeah, we get in the Chinook. And I'm fucking shitting bricks. And long story short is we land and we had a just like a line of vehicles.
Waiting for you guys.
Yeah, that we had to load into and then drive like 3 hours. Then we drove for like 2 or 3 hours, whatever it was. We get to the outpost and it's like these like trailer pods. And they've got like bunk beds and like jail mattresses on them. That's what I slept on for 10 months, dude.
So that the first deployment was 10 months?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately for me, that was the only deployment.
Okay.
Right? It was a 12-month deployment with the unit, but we got there early February. Or no, we got there, like early Feb. 7 months in, 8 months in, August 23rd of 2009. My convoy got hit with a massive IED
That's for the incident.
Yeah, that killed my LT and just like changed my life, dude.
Yeah. But before we get into that, I'm gonna get really deep with that situation. Before that, for the 7-8 months that you were there, what was it like every day? Like everyday life, you wake up.
It was like a fucking 9 to 5, dude. That's what it was like. If you looked at it anything other than that,
Yeah.
it would kill you, dude. And I see these guys today, and I don't knock any of this. I don't dismiss any of this because I do my due diligence in being a member of the community
Yeah.
for both law enforcement and veterans. and I've done plenty of public speaking, and I've been invited to be a keynote speaker multiple times, right?
Mm-hmm.
But perception is reality, right? And so it's what you make of it,
Yeah.
right? So even at a young age, even though I didn't notice I was doing it, if you allow your experiences to become a belief system, that is how you're going to fucking
Yeah.
live. But if you take and create a belief system and allow that to shape your experiences to come, things will have a different turnout. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at a young age, I didn't realize it. But I was doing it involuntarily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say 9 to 5. Because I saw some fucking vicious shit out there. And it wasn't like wartime fucking shootouts and it was pretty peaceful when I was there, bro. We had a couple of IED explosions. We had a couple of damaged vehicles, you know what I mean? I smelt a couple of burnt bodies, you know what I mean, in a helicopter crash that we went to. So it wasn't like vicious, gruesome shit, like frontline guerrilla warfare shit. It was just like we saw some shit, man. But even being there in a peaceful environment,
Yeah, it's still crazy, man.
it's still, bro.
insane.
It's not New York.
It's not Miami.
Boston. It's not Miami. It's not. Dude. It's life. This is the life we're living right now. But it's not life like you expect it, right? So when you go out there and you disconnect from what we are in right now, and then you come back to this, you're like, what?
That was gonna be my question. But okay, so when you're there, you know how like the Iraqi army had their own uniforms, and I think they were siding with the Americans, right? The actual army.
Siding is a conflicting word.
Okay.
Working with,
yeah.
side by side.
Working with, side by side, yeah.
Yeah, but do you know who else they work with? Who wants to kill us?
Of course.
Right?
So that must have been hard. Like when you're out there, or let's say you're on a mission, you're on a job, you don't even know who's against you because they're all dressed the same. They're all in civilian uniforms. So how was that for you? Like anyone can kill you literally.
They had their own uniforms, and we worked with them a lot. And again, I wasn't in any sort of leadership position as a young guy, but from my observations, that's why we always put them in the front.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're telling me there's nothing there?
Go
All
first.
right, you guys go first.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You fucking step on the mine. You know what I mean? You get blown up by the deep buried IED and we'll take cover. You know what I'm saying? And they would fake a lot of shit too. Oh, we know there's a weapons cache here, right? Their brigade commanders would come to us.
They spoke English? Some of
them spoke very broken English,
Yeah.
but their higher staff would work on their English because they would talk to my command all the fucking time. And their commanders would come and say, oh, look what we found. And they would bring us this, like, one day I came with my commander and we went literally straight to the front gate and they were standing there with 2 trucks and they were holding a mortar shell. And they were like, here, we found this. And it was right outside, and it was right outside the gate.
Yeah.
And my CO was like, take it. And I was like, all right. So I take it. I guess it was a dud or a dummy or some shit. And my commander he'd already been on 4 deployments prior to that, like 2 to Afghanistan. This was like his second deployment to Iraq at like 27 years old, right? 16 years ago. And so he like looks at it and he saw that there was like no fuse in it. He's like, just go fucking put it in the truck.
Yeah. So you're there for 7-8 months.
I was there 7-8 months, man.
And then take
yeah.
me to the day that.
Oh boy. August 23rd, man. I was a standout soldier, bro. And I was the youngest soldier that was deployed on the ground with my commander. I was his personal security. Usually you have like a corporal or a sergeant that's with your captain on the ground, right? And officers, no matter where you go and whatever job you take, in anything in a field position, right? Officers take precedence in the field, right? They are the mapping system. They are the deciding factors. They are what guide us. They are what structure the plan. They are what talk amongst each other to formulate a fucking move forward type of an idea, right? And we're the guys that just fucking go, right? I learned fast. I retained a lot of information, and I grew fast. So I was my CO's personal security. But then we had a new lieutenant that got assigned to the unit. Didn't know anything. Didn't understand a fucking thing. Didn't understand chain of command structure. As a lieutenant, he didn't get shit.
Wow.
Yeah, so it took him time. All right, he had the opportunity to stay in the States because we were already about midway through the deployment.
Yeah.
But he said, no, I want to go out there with the guys. So the day that he fucking got there, they assigned him a truck. And my commander comes up to me and he's like, Angert, this is the new lieutenant. you're gonna be driving for him. And I was like, sir, like, what do you mean? And he's like, what'd I fucking say?
Don't question.
And I
it.
said, Roger that, sir. I got you.
Yeah.
So we got this new lieutenant. I'm driving for him. We get really close. Becomes one of my closest fucking buddies. We build a fucking phenomenal relationship. Inside jokes, spending hours in the truck together, on the ground together, endless amounts of combat missions, 100 plus at least in the time of 4 months probably.
Missions?
Yeah, easily. One mission after the next.
And what were the so just pause you. What were the missions like? Walk me through, like, let's say one mission that you can remember that stood in your
Intel, right? Intel comes out. There's a high value target in this local area. He's working for so and so. He's getting funded by so and so. He knows where there's weapons caches hidden for the insurgency in the local area that we're patrolling every day. Let's go find him.
God.
That was it.
Wow.
There's a lot of that.
And you got to go into the city.
We got to go into the
Go
small
find
city.
him one of the huts that he lives in.
Go fucking track this guy down.
How do you track him down?
Dude,
I guess you have a picture of him as something?
that was beyond me, dude.
Yeah.
That was above my pay
And they
grade.
found him.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
There was a couple of guys we found. One time we found like 2 guys that we took back to the base with us, blindfolded. Here I am in a fucking empty trailer pod with a desk and a chair at 19, because I turned 19 in Iraq already. Smoking cigarettes, chain smoking cigarettes. And this fucking guy is blindfolded, handcuffed, and I'm basically in an interrogation room right now.
Yeah.
19 years old, and I'm waiting for his transfer. And I don't want to say flashbacks, but like when I look back at it, like I could just remember this fucking dude, this poor dude. And I say poor dude, right? Like everybody's innocent when you're fucking almost dead,
Yeah.
right? Like when you're on your last breath, everybody's innocent.
Yeah, man.
The most murderous motherfucker
Yeah.
is innocent
When he's about to die.
when you're about to die,
Yeah.
right? Because now you're like, oh, I want to live, right? This guy who's blindfolded and handcuffed at the table on some janky fucking stool that he's sitting on with this like paper mache table, and you got me in full gear watching him. They're like, don't let him out of your sight. And I'm in like a 10x4 trailer pod. Like, dude, he's not going far.
Where is he gonna
He's
go?
not going far, right? Like I've got a rifle. I've got full combat load of 210
And he's
rounds.
handcuffed, tied to the...
And he's handcuffed.
Where's he
He's
gonna
like,
go?
all I can remember him saying was like, Mister, cigaretta, cigaretta. All he's fucking asking for is a cigarette. And I don't want to give it to him, but I gave it to him.
Yeah.
I gave him a cigarette. I let him smoke a cigarette. And I'm talking to him in English like, good. And he's blindfolded. And I'm like, good? And he's like, He's just fucking chiefing, right? And I'm just like, fuck, dude. Like, I'm about to let this guy go. I don't know what's going to happen to him after that. He was a transport in my Humvee. Blindfolded. We put him in my fucking Humvee. Dude, I'm fucking 19. I'm like, what the fuck?
So
Can't do
before
this shit no more.
we get into the details, what happened with the incident? Was there any other missions that you remember that were like, oh, holy shit, it got crazy?
I didn't even have a radio as a young private. And so we did that one mission where we were looking for this guy, and we went into because their houses are like mud mache type of shit. It's like
That's not a house.
It's a house because it's got a staircase and all that. It's the walls are like, it's super like cheapy drywall type shit, right? It's like
Okay.
just like easy build muck and all
So
that.
it wasn't those holes that they showed on
No, dude.
Yeah.
It's not the back end of Africa where they're like
Yeah.
actually building mud houses.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like some janky shit, bro.
Yeah.
But it's built, right? They left me in the back, and I'm like, all I have is my rifle, my gear, my helmet, no night vision on. And I took a knee behind the house, and the entire unit is patrolling the street, probably about 100 yards away from me, out in the back road of the street, of the main street, and they left me there. So I'm like,
purposely, or they
they just forgot.
they
Like,
just
where's
forgot about
Angert?
you.
Yeah, I'm sitting there taking a knee, and I'm just like pulling security. And then it gets real quiet because then I can't hear the trucks, I can't hear the guys, I can't hear the radios.
And you had no radio either.
I don't have a radio.
Oh
They didn't give the young
God,
guys a radio. So you needed to be of rank to have a radio or a pistol or something like that. I just had
Why?
my rifle. It's the standard, right?
Okay.
So like the ranked guys are controlling the younger dickheads that are like, hey, you go here, you go here, you
Yeah.
go here, right? A corporal or somebody above or a specialist or a corporal, whatever.
Yep.
I was just a private, dude. So I didn't have shit, right? Although I stood out, I didn't need that shit, right?
Yeah.
I was with the CO. Now I'm with the lieutenant. They fucking leave me. And I'm like, it's real quiet, bro. And all I got in front of me is thousands of acres of empty palm grove in the
Oh
back
my
end of South
God.
Baghdad. And I'm like in this row of backyard of these houses lined up on the street. And I'm like, where the fuck is everybody? So I run out in the middle of the street and I end up meeting up with another platoon sergeant. And he's like, Angert, what the fuck are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't know, Sarge. I was like, they fucking left me. And they left me in the back and didn't say shit. Because the last thing I got told was, Angert, go pull fucking security in the back of that house. So there was a miscomms there, right? There was a miscommunication, and it just ended up like I got stuck.
Yeah.
And I fucking was, tunnel vision hyper focused, and I wasn't checking in on my guys as a young guy. And then they ended up putting me in their truck, and he's like, yeah, get in the truck. It's fine. We get back to post, and he's like, hey. He's like, how the fuck did Angert pull up with Red Platoon? He's like, what the fuck? And I was like, dude, y'all fucking left me. So there's like cool shit like that. We did some fun shit, but yeah, dude, it was a lot, man.
Let's go back to the incident. So that whole day, what was the mission? First of all, what was the actual mission you guys were?
I think we were going to meet a local sheik.
Okay.
We did a lot of those. We did a lot of the local sheik ones, right? They always had their own personal security. We did a lot of the local sheik ones. They'd want us to take our fucking gear off and sit down on the floor with them and eat. And I'm like, I look at my CO and I'm like, sir, I'm not taking my shit off. He's like, Angert, take your fucking shit off and come sit down and eat. And I'm like, sir, they're gonna fucking poison us right now and we're gonna die right
That's
here.
That's a good way of
You know what I
thinking.
mean?
You never know.
No, you
Right?
don't fucking know.
You don't know.
No, you don't. They're all friendly, hee hee ha ha.
Yeah.
And then I'm face first in a fucking pile of fucking foam because I'm eating some rat shit and he put in the fucking rice.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this rice is so good. And it's really just rat shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You don't
But I
know.
loved it, right? Like, you want to talk about falafel and good food, and we'll talk about my incident, but
Yeah.
you want to talk about falafel and good incidents and like good experiences? I did that a couple times. That was the perks of being on the ground with the command staff as a young guy. That was the perks of being there because every leader he went to go meet with in the community, it's in their culture in the Middle East to invite us in their home,
Yeah.
have the spread, right? That's the Middle Eastern culture.
Yeah.
And I loved it too because they would invite us to smoke hookah with them,
Yeah.
especially when we were
That's
with the
cool.
sheiks, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
And Saddam's amusement park was a cool one.
You were in Baghdad, right? So
We were in the South Baghdad
did you ever go
province.
by his house, whatever that they call it?
We went by the Cross Sabers in the Green Zone. I never was anywhere near any of his palaces. I never saw any of his palaces or any of his homes. That was way further south and outside of our jurisdiction. There was other units in that area.
But you couldn't travel anywhere. You had to stay in your own jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's not like I could fucking hop in the truck and go
Yeah.
for a ride.
No,
But
of course.
yeah, and so August 23rd, 2009 at about 7 o'clock in the morning, my life changed, man. It's kind of what led me to being here, right? Is who I am, is how I got referred to you, how you and I met, right? And what brought me to Florida and the whole fucking story, the whole domino effect of what led me to being out here. How I met your partner, right? How I met many people through him, actually. And shout out to him, right?
My brother.
Shout out, big
Sean,
shout out.
my brother.
Shout out to Big Sean,
Yeah,
bro.
man.
Shout out. Same main supply route, same road, same tactical stance, same standard operating procedure of 3 vehicles, minimum of 12 guys. We had 15 guys that morning. The day before, we had a mission, and I don't remember it, but the guys were telling me the driver, and I'm going to just break it down for you. The driver of the vehicle, and we were in standard M1151 Humvees, okay? The driver and the gunner in the middle, right, on the gunner's turret, are not allowed to leave the vehicle. The vehicle needs to be at all times accessible, and the gunner needs to be able to provide suppressing fire at a high capacity rate, right? Like, we have crew serve weapons up there, not like the rifles that we have on the ground that are
50
automatic.
cal big boys, yeah.
50 cal big boys, 240 big boys, basically shooting 7.62 at a fucking high speed, right? At a very fast rate. So those crew serve weapons will really do us some justice if we get into a firefight and we need to suppress fire or pull around the corner. That's 23,000 pounds of up armored steel, man. That could really be a great help, right? Especially if you got a guy down who gets hit with a round. You can take cover behind the vehicle. Even if they shoot at the tires, Vehicle's still covered in steel,
Yeah.
right? Base plates underneath, armor around it. So it's a good cover, right? Gunner's turret is covered in steel. It's basically a steel cage up top. So unless you're throwing an RPG at the vehicle or launching an RPG at the vehicle, you're probably good with small arms fire, right? The windows were yay thick, right? So it was a pretty
Cool vehicle, man.
yeah, it was a pretty good vehicle to
Yeah.
ride in. So the driver and the gunner are not allowed to leave the vehicle. Apparently, the day before we got hit, August 22nd, 2009, we had went on a mission that all the dismounts, meaning all the people besides the driver and the gunner, exit the vehicle and go and do the patrol. The driver and the gunner stay in the vehicle. I had a little kid in the community in the South Baghdad province of the area. I think it was, and if anybody from 17 sees this, I think the area was Husseiniya, okay? And we were in the Husseiniya province on the west bank of the South Baghdad province. And this little boy that I knew ran over to my window and asked me to come out. He then walked me down by the Tigris that had an old fishing shack, an old wooden fishing shack. And apparently, I walked down there and I opened the fishing shack, and it's just posters and pictures of the entire platoon in our faces.
Wow.
Yeah, bro. And then the next day,
What was your reaction? You don't remember?
I don't
You
remember, bro.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything. And then the next day, we got hit. So I think the CO had us taking pictures of that for intel purposes, because fucking little boy takes us over there. That it could be his uncle.
Yeah.
It could be his uncle's uncle. It could be
so crazy.
right. And it could be somebody, and we don't have the resources right there, right then, to figure out who it was.
Yeah.
Figure out the fuck we're gonna do. We're going on a mission the next morning. We're using the old Vietnam Harris radios, and my guys get on the internals, right? Because the internals, nobody can hear us except the trucks. We always just talk shit amongst each other.
Yeah.
My guys get on the internals and start talking shit and want me to take the lead. So the 6 wasn't on the mission with us that morning, but it was the 1, the 4, and the 5 element. The 5 is the executive officer of the company. So you have your commanding officer, you have your XO, and then you have your lieutenants and your platoon sergeants, and then your sergeants and your fucking shitbag little low guys like me, right? And then you also have a first sergeant, sergeant major, but that's a whole nother realm. So it was the 5 element, the 1 element, and the 4. So the 2 truck, because it's 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
2 truck is usually taking the lead, and which was the platoon sergeant, and they wanted the officers to be in the back. So I was supposed to be the 2nd or the 3rd vehicle back. One of these dicks gets on the radio, and he's like, "Hey, 1 truck, hurry the fuck up." And I look at the LT, and I was like, "Sir, are we really doing this?" And he's like, "Are you fucking going or what?" Like on the radio.
Yeah.
And I was like, "LT, what are we doing?" He's like, "Angert, just fucking go." And I said, "All right, roger that." They were fucking around with us. So I pull out, right? Clear out the steering wheel, make a right turn off of our outpost road, get on the main supply route, which was MSR Dover, okay? Make a right turn, and the main outpost road was probably 2,000 feet from the main road. I go about 1,000 to 2,000 feet down. I make a right turn onto Dover. I'm traveling about 700 to 800 yards down, and we get into a staggered column. So 1 to the left, 1 in the center, 1 to the right. And after a short period of time and a certain distance traveled, we would stagger that column again and just make sure that we weren't in the same positions, right? Not traveling down the same way of the road. So if anything happens,
Yeah.
1,500 yards down, my vehicle, we took the lead. My vehicle drives over a dual arrayed Copperhead IED, also known as an EFP. One aimed towards the engine block, the other one aimed towards the gunner's turret. We were traveling at a high rate of speed at like 35 miles an hour, but in a 23,000-pound vehicle, 35 is like 55.
Yeah.
And that's a fucking moving bulldozer with 5 guys in it, right? Driver, truck commander, gunner, 2 guys in the back. My vehicle gets hit. The LT was an instant KIA. It fucking created a bowling ball size hole in the, I was looking for your helmet. to see, but that was about the size of the hole that it created in the door.
Yeah.
Melted through that steel door
crazy,
like a
man.
fucking hot knife through butter. Instantly decapitated the lieutenant, and everything that went in through that right side, that passenger side, because he's the truck commander, right? So like, it's even closer than what you and I are sitting right now, right? In the truck.
Yeah.
And then all you have in between is like steel radio mounts and old radios and shit like that and wiring and all that. So everything that went into him ate me the fuck up in the right side of my face and my skull, right? Traveling at the speed of light. Piercing through bone and flesh like it was non-existent.
Yes, paper, nothing.
So I had, massive pieces of shrapnel and steel in my face, in my skull, and I swerved off into the berm. We disappeared in a cloud of dust, and the two trucks behind us could not see us for a good 2 minutes until the dust settled. The LT was already dead. My gunner took a massive piece of shrapnel to his left femoral artery. So this guy, and I make fun of it now because this guy was fucking squirting all over me. And I'd have fucking punched him in the dick if I had the opportunity. But you know what I mean? He got saved, no problem. They kept his leg. He just had some pretty heavy damage. The two guys in the back, after the explosion, they heard the explosion on the post. That's how fucking loud it was. Cut that fucking truck in half. LT's dead. Joe White, who's my gunner, which I haven't spoke to in like 16 years. His fucking leg is dangling. The two guys in the back had just like some minor concussions, which is what caused that's what causes their PTSD, right?
I assume you were unconscious at this point, right? You were.
And me, I got hit in the right side of my face with a massive piece of shrapnel lodged into the right side of my face, in my skull, peppered down with metal everywhere, like somebody took a black pepper shaker and just fucking shook it on my face, and massive hemorrhaging and cut on my forearm. So I lost like 40% of my forearm here, but I've tattooed over and grew some muscle over the years and was able to, the body will compensate. I got out of the truck and started fighting my guys, and I punched a couple of guys in the face because I'm fighting them for my life. And my medics, they cleared it up. My medics fucking patched me up. And then when
So you were conscious at this point?
I was conscious, but I don't remember anything.
But you remember anything?
I don't remember anything.
The shock,
bro.
of course.
Yeah,
You
I don't remember anything. And it was a timed, based on the commanding officers and the higher-ups and the guys that I spoke to that were there that day. They told me that it was a timed IED. It wasn't pressure-plated. It wasn't cell phone triggered. It was just timed. They were waiting for us to drive over it. There was somebody looking in the distance,
you were coming.
And it was a quick fucking, right? So, and I'm sure they got paid, right? I don't think they're probably not alive today.
That's crazy, man.
When I got medevaced, I flatlined on the bird, on the Black Hawk that was taking me to the green zone to save my life. I forget how many liters of blood the human body holds. I think it's 5, or just under 5, 4.5. But I bled out like 3.5. Wow. So I flatlined. My heart stopped. And I was pronounced dead for a good 30, 40 seconds, maybe a minute.
That is so
but
crazy,
between
man.
the blood transfusions that the flight medic started and the EpiPens and all that fucking morphine and all that shit they were hitting me with, they got my heart back up.
Yeah.
And the initial surgery to save my life in Balad, in the green zone, was 14.5-hour open brain. So they removed, and I think I sent you a picture of it. Maybe not, but
I've seen a couple videos.
Yeah,
you sent
so
me.
there's definitely some pictures there. That was 14.5-hour open brain to save my life and remove all the shrapnel and get me to be in at least a semi-decent stable condition. They didn't think I was going to make it because 2 deployments prior to that, First Cav had dealt with a driver who also had the similar situation, but he died. So my unit did a funeral for me and the LT. They did a whole funeral service, whole 21-gun salute. They got me back up. They got me stable. And then they flew me from Balad to the Landstuhl Army Medical Center in Germany. At which point the U.S. Army had appointed local liaisons to come to my parents' house in Boston. So you get two guys that come in
It's the
uniform,
worst thing to
full
see you do,
uniform,
man.
with a folded flag in hand.
Yeah. Not good.
Knock on my mom's door,
Wow.
and they didn't want to give her the flag yet because nothing was guaranteed, but or nothing was for sure yet.
Yeah.
But they showed up, and they needed to let her know that your son's been critically wounded, and we need to take you with us.
Wow.
So please, so you can say your goodbyes. And she said my dad came to the door like a fucking flapjack, fell flat on his ass, and turned pale. And my mother just started screaming. She said, "You don't remember? You were asleep."
Yeah.
But I was yelling at them to leave, and they were doing their best. They did a great job, but they liaisoned and they took her to Washington, D.C. from Boston, all expenses paid, in sponsorship of U.S. Army and all that. And so they wanted her to go to Germany to say goodbye to me because I was on life support.
Yeah.
Machine was breathing for me. I was still getting transfusions. I was still recovering. Open brain surgery. My fucking head looked like a watermelon. And I was out I was out officially for 22 days. So I was in a coma for 22 days. Out. Yeah, out cold. And she said, "No, I'm not going nowhere. We're bringing him to the States." Basically, when she tells it to me, she tells me, in a fucking bag, in a box, in a bubble, you bring him home.
Yeah.
And she met me in D.C. At the National Naval Medical Center or hospital, which is now the Walter Reed National Naval Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, also known as the President's Hospital. It's where the president would be treated if he was. And I was on the 5 East ward at the hospital recovering with my neighboring friends, which were local Iraq, Afghanistan combat veterans, male and female, amputees, all sorts of motherfuckers that were injured coming back from the war, beat to shit. And I woke up September 13th. And there was nothing, no one, they didn't know when I was going to wake up. They didn't know how I woke up. They were ready to put me out. Some of it was medically induced because I was in and out, but they wanted to keep me asleep for those last couple of days because they weren't sure if my brain would have enough recovery and I would be a fucking vegetable, right? So when I tell the story, it's, do you remember how you woke up, Sam? Do you remember what happened? You know what? And I always tell the story, it's the same thing I've said over the years. If anybody ever finds a record of me telling the story, it's always the same thing. It's I heard a voice, and it was the whisper, right? Like Sam.
That's so great.
It's time to get up. And then when I woke up, I looked around, and there was nobody in the fucking room. And when they came in the room, I looked around, and I said, "Who was that woke me up?" And the doctor's like, wait, I had a whole trauma team inside the room. So it was like 4 or 5. It was neurosurgery, plastic surgery, oral surgery, you fucking name it. Whatever surgery, right? They were all in that room. So it was one of the most intense cases that they were dealing with. So I think they had the best trauma team in the United States assigned to my case. And it was what they called a textbook case because you don't see survival victims from the injuries that I sustained, right? So it's a textbook miracle case.
I can't believe you're here.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's insane.
It's
man.
pretty fucking intense.
It's
bro,
crazy.
Yeah, it's intense. My forearm. My mom would tell me when I was in the ICU, my forearm looked again, and she'd joke about it, and she'd be like, "You know what your forearm looked like?" And I'd say, "What?" She'd be like, "It looked like a sewn together vagina." And I said, "Really?"
Oh my God.
I say, "Really?" She'd say, "Yeah." And she said, "You know, your fingers look like fucking hot dogs." And I'd say, "Yeah." I was swollen. I was, I had no circulation. I had bruising on my back. From being bedridden for 3 weeks. I grew a beard. I was missing 40% of my skull. I lost vision in my right eye, 85% vision in my right eye from retinal scarring. I had no mobility. I was paralyzed from the waist down, in the best shape of my life 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
Right? 19 years old, 195 in Iraq, benching 300 pounds. I was a monster out there. I was crushing it out there. And now I lost 45 pounds. I weigh like 140, 150, in bed, haven't walked. My equilibrium's off. 4 open brain surgeries. 3 facial reconstructions. Entire face made out of titanium. And this was, and what I'm saying, titanium, this is down the road.
Yeah.
When I woke up, I still had no surgeries. But paralyzed from the waist down. Had to learn how to walk, learn how to read, learn how to talk, learn how to write.
That's so crazy, man. That's insane.
I got hit August 23rd, 2009. I woke up September 13th. And all they were telling my mom was, ma'am, Sam's never, we're sad to inform you that Sam's never going to be able to walk again.
Poor lady, the amount of shit she went through.
Oh, dude.
First, they came with he's probably going to die. Then this, then this, then this. And imagine for a parent, their child is in a hospital.
I can't imagine. I can't. Because I can't see, as a dad today, I can't see my daughter.
Right? You have exactly. You have a daughter.
I can't see my daughter, and it would crush me. You know, I've seen a lot of death in my life. And you can make another fucking kid if you need to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's not about that, man.
No.
That is absolutely...
No. You know, I have a vicious and very low level of empathy. And I don't want to say this to anybody who's watching. I have a very low level of empathy for people that come up with excuses, right? And sometimes, you know, and that's the growing process in life, right? Like I'm not very empathetic. I can provide, I can be sympathetic, right? So I can understand.
Yep.
But I refuse to, and again, this is probably the more aggressive way of Sam saying it, but I refuse to fucking dumb myself down and feel bad.
Good.
And feel sorry. I don't like to use my injury and my experience as something traumatic that I went through to compare it to other people. Like, hey, you think you're having a fucking rough day? Let me give you the story real quick, and then I want you to compare it to what you're going through, right?
Man.
And it's a shitty way to do it. And I stopped doing it because throughout my recovery, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of people that I was close with when I came back to Brooklyn and retired from the service. And I officially retired in February of 2012. I was still active duty throughout my time in recovery, and I was fucking getting awards and promotions and all sorts of shit that because they were like, dude, this kid is fucking making strides. Dude, we don't know. I'd go to ophthalmology and they would, you know, check on my eyes and I'd say, Doc, well, what you got, right? They even offered me to take out my real eye and put in a glass eye. Like the doctor comes in one day, the optometrist, the lead optometrist at the Naval Hospital, and he brings me a brochure with like NFL teams on it. I was like, "What's this, doc?" And it was like contact lens photos or like basically eyeball shaped pictures with NFL team logos in them.
Oh my God!
And he said, "Well, we're offering you, because we think we're going to take it out, Sam. You're not going to have any vision in it, and you'd probably be better off." And so I looked and I was like, "My ENT is who was in charge of the surgery, ear, nose, throat surgeon, and she's now a Harvard professor." Who's I kept in touch with for quite some time, but I lost contact with. But I asked her, I was like, Doc, can we keep it? Can I keep my eye for cosmetic purposes? Can I keep it? Is there something that we can do? And she's like, honey, you're not going to have a lot of vision in that right eye. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't born this way, right? Dent on my face, but that's from all the tissue loss and damage and all that. But it is what it is.
I can imagine what going through your head the whole time, man.
Dude, I wanted to kill myself.
Imagine.
Oh, dude, I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to, and I was never suicidal.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kill myself. I wanted it to end the suffering. I wanted it to end. I was episodic. I was extremely depressed.
Was it more of the mental? Was it harder the mental suffering or the physical suffering?
No, it was mental. Everything was mental.
Yeah.
Everything was mental. The physical, I knew I could bounce back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I was able to walk, run, fucking lift, this and that, I was going to crush it in the gym and I was going to get back to that. But it was the mental. It was the dealing with, and I was so unstable mentally, they didn't tell me that the LT was dead until 4 months into my recovery. So the guys would call the hospital on a satellite phone from Iraq and they wanted to talk to me. And every time I'd get on the phone, I'd be like, hey, man, I love hearing from you. Can you put the LT on the phone?
Oh my God.
Hey, man, and tell the LT I said hi, man. Hey, can you put the
heartbreaking, man.
lieutenant on the phone?
That
And
is-
they'd be like, Angert, yeah, fucking LT's caught up. He's just busy with paperwork right now. And then one day, I was really good friends with one of my radio guys, one of my communications guys, a kid by the name of Ryan Eck. And I don't know I don't know where the fuck he's at nowadays. And he flew into Virginia. The unit paid for him to fly in. And he came to one of the polytrauma centers I was at for the traumatic brain injury and all that. And he brought me the honorary KIA POW bracelets that all the soldiers wear, the black bracelets that everybody notices. And I just fucking broke down, dude. I was already walking at this point. I was a little better. I was still being monitored heavily, but I wasn't plugged in. I was more on the outpatient side.
Yep.
I was right around the corner from getting my driver's license back, right? So DC had suspended my license because of the injury that I sustained, and I had to retake my road test. So I passed my road test with flying colors, you know, and so I got my driver's license reinstated, and it was right before that he came out, gave me the bracelet, and I just fucking lost my shit.
Yeah, man.
And then again, a mental disturbance because I thought the unit was lying to me, you know? And so I was holding grudges. I was angry as fuck, dude. I was so angry, dude.
Did they never told you before?
I was so angry for the longest time.
But do you understand now why they never told you? Or
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I was so angry, dude. I was angry at the world. I was angry at everyone, dude. I took that experience and I was like comparing it to every shitbag I had ever known. You know what I mean? So when I came back to Brooklyn, I was like, oh, you think you're fucking having a rough life?
Yeah.
Look at me.
Let me tell you
You
something.
know what I mean? Take a fucking good look. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you lose a lot of friends?
I lost a lot of
A
friends.
lot of friends?
Overseas?
Yeah.
Nah.
Like in the war? I mean,
Nah,
in Iraq?
no.
You didn't lose a
No,
lot?
thank God our deployment was, I was the only one that got hurt. And the LT, there was another platoon that lost 2 guys during an IED explosion. But as far as my platoon and my company, I only lost my lieutenant, and then the guys lost me.
How are you today?
Rock solid, bro. Calloused up,
Yeah, man.
you know?
You look good.
Calloused, thank you, bro.
Oh, man.
Thank you, bro. Calloused up.
I'm very amazed with what you've been through and how you recovered. It's if you don't believe in God, you better believe in God now. That's all I gotta say to anybody that's watching.
Yeah. I'm
Right?
I'm very close to the faith. I was raised in a Jewish home. I'm big in the Jewish community. I pray to myself more than I do at a shul or a synagogue or.
For anyone to understand this, like I always say this, these type of situations for most people doesn't seem real. They'll never understand that this is actually real life, you know? Because a lot of people don't experience anything.
Yeah,
right? Like they don't know. What,
yeah.
Like this, if you like your story, if you say the story to somebody, they'll think either you're lying, or it's a movie, or right. That's all they know is like that's what they see in a movie. They don't understand that this is real for somebody. This is real life.
Yeah, dude, and I'm just another guy out of, to me, in my views, and this is, when you ask me how I am today, it's a lot, there's a lot of self-reflection, right? And so I am my own worst enemy. To anybody who's watching this, right? I took a big role in being a peer mentor and sharing my story and the level of perseverance that it requires. And how resilient you need to be, and how you need to not get caught up in that negative minefield of thought, and do all this future talk, right? Because one day the doctor came up to me and said, Sam, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I gave her this bullshit fucking spiel. Here's what I think. She said, oh, I think that's great, right? But I don't think that's possible. And if I could walk, I would have kicked her in the face, right? But I couldn't move. So I just kind of wiggled, and it's like a dead fish. And I was like, oh, yeah? Okay, tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing she ever said to me. It was the best thing anybody's ever said to me in my life. I forget her. I remember her first name, but I forget her last name. Rachel something, right? She was a young psychologist at the Naval Hospital. And she said, those are all good objectives, but tomorrow you might get hit by a bus. And I joked around. I was like, good thing I can't walk. You know what I mean? Like fucking, tomorrow lightning might strike. Tomorrow, heart attack. Tomorrow, brain failure.
Yeah.
But let me give you a word of advice, Sam. And I said, yeah, what is it, doc? And she said, even today, as hurt and wounded as you are in bed, do you think you're the same Sam you were today or you are today that you were 5 years ago? And I said, well, what do you mean? How do you mean? And she posed it for me in a way that I can look at life like this for the remainder of time. And I've been doing that. Is, where were you 5 years ago? 5 years ago, I was 14 years old. I was a young dick. I wasn't fucking ambitious. I didn't have any goals. I had no title. And I didn't stand for anything. Now, I'm laying in bed as a wounded, decorated combat veteran who served this country, had honor to do it, and had the fucking balls to pull through the shit that I just went through, right? That meant something.
Yeah.
Right? So now when I look back at myself 5 years ago, even now, did I make it far? So you're measuring yourself, right? And again, dude, I go full circle. I am my own worst enemy, right? I am so fucking hard on myself, dude. I always want a pat on the back. Us men, we don't get enough attaboys, you know what I mean? And I want a fucking pat on the back, bro.
Absolutely.
Whether it's by my woman or by my fucking brothers or somebody to be like, every day, just to be like, fuck, you're doing so good, man. You know what I mean? We don't get that. Yeah. And so I spent a lot of nights, fucking sleepless nights, crying, miserable, blaming, wanting to retaliate on people that had nothing to do with it. Lost a lot of friendships, burned a lot of bridges in my early 20s when I was in Brooklyn, you know, because everybody was still doing goon shit. Street fights, driving, drag racing. Oh, I mean, you name it, bro. I seen it all, right? And I just burned those bridges, you know, like, and I always compared it like, look how fast life can change, man. Yeah, man. You don't fucking realize it. What are you doing? Shitbag. I don't want anything to do with you. And I just cut ties. Yeah. Right? Even with the broads.
Oh, you were angry, man. You were.
Oh, boy. I was fucking, dude, I was furious, bro.
Yeah, man.
Getting into my 30s is really, right? So I recovered, man. I recovered. I made a 97% recovery. Everything came back except the scarring and the injuries that I have, which never held me back from anything, right? I walked around with my head low and my chin high, right? Never let it get in front of me. And I pursued an education, which is something I wanted to do, right? They printed papers about me, daily news articles, and Midwood veteran coming home from severe injuries in Iraq. I would get honored at the Washington Nationals Stadium where the Nationals play in D.C. They'd invite me out there. So you type in my first and last name on Google, there's stories on me.
Yeah, you're
right?
everywhere.
They made this thing about, right? You go on Google and type in Sammy Angert.
You got a Purple Heart, right?
I was awarded the Purple Heart, man.
Yeah, that's amazing.
At the White House.
That's incredible, dude.
So it was, my ceremony wasn't at the White House.
Yeah.
But we were invited to the White House during the Obama administration to go there and see him and hang out for all the honorary combat vets that received Purple Hearts. They asked me where I wanted it and who I wanted to pin me for my Purple Heart. I could have said the president.
Yeah.
They would have made that happen for me. But I didn't want the president. I wanted one of the commanders that was...
Well, that means a lot more to you, obviously, than a president, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
I didn't give a fuck about that guy.
That's a big move on you.
I didn't give a fuck about that guy. Yeah. Barack Hussein, I didn't really give a fuck about him.
But no, it makes sense that you would, a real man would choose his commander, of course, over a president.
Man, so it was one of the available commanders at the time that was in the States while my guys were deployed. But my commander, my CO that I've spoken about today with you, he flew out from Iraq 3 times to come stay with me at the hospital.
Oh, he did? Wow.
Yeah, and just recently, just recently he got promoted to full bird colonel, and he's out in Kansas City. And for my birthday, for my 36th birthday, just this past July, I flew out to Kansas to see him for his promotion.
That's amazing.
So, shout out to all the officers in the field.
Definitely, man.
Taking care of their men and being true leaders and setting the example, because it really made an imprint on me, right? I always wanted to be, and that guy has 4 Purple Hearts. And on our deployment, on our second deployment, I had guys that had Silver Stars that were deployed with me that had been in gunfights prior to this and saved their men. I had Purple Heart veteran. I had some fucking gnarly guys with me. And I was just a fucking Joe, you know?
If you could do it again, would you do it?
Like if they called me today or tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'd probably drop the interview and leave.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In a heartbeat, dude. I wouldn't think about it. I would just get in the fucking car. I'd leave everybody at home. I wouldn't call. I wouldn't fucking text. I would just fucking disappear.
Wow.
And I'd go do the damn thing.
Amazing, man. God bless you, brother.
I wouldn't question it for a second. And it's not for pride.
Yeah.
It's not for war is the biggest business in the world, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the honor, dude. You know what I mean?
The brotherhood.
It's for honor. Yeah, the brotherhood comes with it.
Yeah.
Right? There was guys I hated too.
Of course.
But
was there a lot of competition between, let's say, branches and other, like, not call it crews, but like, you know, like the, how you call them, platoons, whatever?
like different units?
Yeah, different units?
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a lot of competition?
Yeah, there's always a, we're always making a mockery of each other, right? And then it's kind of what I said now, which is like, yeah, I'd make fun of the cooks, you know what I mean? And I'd make fun of the mechanics, and I'd make fun of the comm guys, and I'd make fun of the guys that were doing, you know, the paperwork. But when I hung up the uniform in 2012 and I looked back on that 5 years or that 6 years that I was basically in, right, and associated with the U.S. military, you realize how much of a combined effort it really is, right? I wouldn't have been shit if it wasn't for my mechanics. My truck wouldn't have had AC in it. You know what I mean? Like Humvees in Iraq had air conditioner. Can you imagine, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to eat if my cooks weren't working all hours through the night, you know? And I was fed real well. I can't say anything, dude. I was eating well. I was fed, dude. I was eating all the protein and all the carbohydrates that I needed, and I was in the best shape of my life until I got hurt, right? If my comms guys hadn't gone to school and had the additional training that they had to be able to square away our radios and make sure that they're connected, most of us would have died,
Yeah.
right?
They're
Communications with everything,
They're the
right? So
brains.
it's an integrated effort, and you start to appreciate that only when you turn around and you look at that uniform in the closet and you're like, damn, dog, everybody did a little bit of something for me.
Yeah.
You know?
When you took your training here, did you think you were ready versus when you came there and you saw what's really going on?
So we can jump a little ahead and say it's kind of right now like in law enforcement,
Yeah.
right? The training that you do is a baseline breakdown for
Yeah.
you, right? It is never going to be
No, you can't mimic the real life.
anything similar, familiar, or relatable to what you do on the line.
Yeah.
Never. It'll never be that. It'll never be, they're going to train you to the standard at which they need you to perform at. When you get to your unit, you'll realize this is completely fucking different. And I'm fucking retarded. And this is not how I was taught, right? Or I learned this, but there's a procedural process in which you need to do it like this, right? And it's the same thing in law enforcement right now.
So that's what you're doing now, right? You're in law enforcement?
Yeah. So I went into law enforcement early or late 2025, and I'm just now getting into the road. So I'm still a newbie, still a rookie for all my cop friends out there.
Are they treating you like a rookie?
I get treated like a fucking rookie. I get treated like an idiot, dude. Yeah, you're a fucking moron, dude. Fucking, you don't know shit, dude. You know. And it takes repetition.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? It takes repetition like anything else. So, you know, in between those years, I educated myself, right? I got a 4-year degree for my undergrad in New York. I left New York. I went to California. I got a master's degree from San Diego State University. I wrote my thesis on. I wrote an executive thesis and did a short presentation to the committee there at San Diego State, to my board, on active shooter protocol, right? So I'm kind of a little bit familiar with that stuff, and I always stayed within the realm of my cup of tea, right? Where I knew it was something combative, something fuck around and find out type of thing, right? So I always stayed in that realm.
Yeah.
Outside of that, COVID hit, right? The world shut down.
Oh, yeah.
So I left Cali. I was working with explosive detection canines in Iraq. We had a couple of joint task force guys that were attached to us when we were doing some of these missions. And I personally never worked with them, but I worked beside them. And I didn't necessarily even go on more than one mission with them, but it was some exposure. Right? And I always knew about the EOD, explosive ordnance type of thing. And I got a call when I was in Cali when all the restrictions were being lifted for COVID. Some in California, everything here in Florida was still at its peak. And somebody called me. There was a convention here in Miami about 4 years ago, and somebody said, "Hey, man, weren't you former Blackwater, now under the former Blackwater under the umbrella of Constellas, now Triple Canopy and Academy and all this. So they have different departments and what you can do and whatnot. So and then it was incredible because I had a full-time now corporate position in Florida, working for an amazing company and gave me an amazing and incredible opportunity to work explosive detection dogs. So I was working the cargo airliners here at Miami International, private sector security, but I was again at the bottom of the totem pole. I didn't like it after a year. I made great money. They took care of me, but I left on good terms because it was just too much for me. And I was a new dad, husband now, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what, with all the opportunities I've been given, why don't I do this on my own? So I, from the ground up, built up, which is now on my Instagram page, right? Blue Ribbon Canine, blue BLU in honor of the LT, because he was the blue one element. That's
amazing.
Right?
That's amazing.
And Ribbon because it's Blue Ribbon,
Yep.
that honors the LT, right? And Canine because that's exactly what the fuck it was, right? So I became one of the more prominent canine handlers in the private sector here in Florida. And anybody wants to challenge that, take a dog in hand, come see me. And I've had more operational hours than some law enforcement guys. Thousands and thousands of operational hours on the floor working an explosive detection dog. And I built a company from the ground up, and I had multitude of opportunities, subcontracting, running the dog, finding all sorts of shit. So I worked all the major events in Miami. I worked the Kaseya Center for the Miami Heat. I worked the Dolphin Stadium. Forget the name of the stadium already.
Hard Rock.
The Hard Rock. I worked the Hard Rock for them, doing all their cargo intake, working canine stuff there. I also did, and a big shout out to in the private sector here in Miami, my big bro Arlen Salazar, who is the running and doing the most incredible job in the private sector here in Miami as far as executive protection.
How has it been a police officer in Florida?
Oh boy, these motherfuckers don't sleep, bro.
Yeah.
Crime does not sleep.
No.
And it does not discriminate. And as a rookie who is just now getting into the nitty-gritty of shit, it is a humbling and eye-opening experience. When I backtrack and say, and I'm going to join the bomb squad with the agency, and everybody's like, even my mother's like, haven't you had enough of the bombs?
Haven't you learned already?
And I'm like, no,
you got to
blow
go to
me
the
up
extremes
more.
right away.
And my answer is, yeah, the extremes,
Yeah,
right?
the
And
extremes.
my response is, who better, especially when I relate it to the canine side, right? When I'm telling my mom, I'm like, Ma, I got a dog. He's searching for bombs. And she's like, oy vey, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, who better to search for bombs, or who better to have dog in hand searching for bombs than the guy that fucking ate a bomb to the face? You know what I'm saying? But as far as the law enforcement side, yeah, I've come up on some incredible mentorship, some high-ranked guys up there, and it's been an incredible opportunity. And
Sam, thank you so much for your time, brother. I
it's
appreciate
been a pleasure, man.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, bro.
I hope you all the success,
Thank you, bro.
safety. Come home at night, man.
Thank you, bro.
Come
Thank you,
home
big
safe
time.
at night.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope
So
you
this
guys
was
success.
amazing.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
I hope a lot of people learned a lot from this today, man.
Thank you,
An
bro.
insane story, bro. Thank you so much again for your time.
I'd love to see the final product, man.
Oh, you're gonna see it soon.
I can't wait, dude.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.